We've all heard the term breast cancer, right? But what if I told you that for decades we were fighting it based on a fundamental misunderstanding? Today, we're diving into the scientific revolution that completely redefined this disease, paving the way for the precision treatments that are saving lives right now.
To really get a sense of the scale here, just look at this number, 2.1 million. That's how many women were newly diagnosed with breast cancer in just 1 year. That works out to a new diagnosis somewhere in the world every 18 seconds. This isn't just a number on a page, it's a constant global reality.
You see, for the longest time, the approach was based on a pretty simple idea. But what if that core idea, that very definition of what we thought we were fighting, was just plain wrong?
Okay, so to really get why this was such a game changer, we have to zoom out for a second. Because this isn't some static problem. It's a huge global health challenge, and it's always evolving.
And the numbers, well, they tell a really clear story. Because our global population is growing, and thankfully people are living longer, the number of breast cancer cases has just been steadily climbing year after year. And that upward trend? It just makes the search for better, smarter treatments more urgent than ever.
And that brings us right to the heart of it. The big idea that completely changed the game. We're about to see how science totally rewrote the book on breast cancer.
So the old way of thinking was pretty straightforward. You find a tumor in the breast. Okay, the main questions were, how big is it and has it spread? That's what doctors call tumor burden. It was basically a one-size-fits-many approach. But of course, beneath the surface, there was a much more complex story just waiting to be discovered. A microscope could show you what was there, but it couldn't tell you the how or the why. For that, we had to go deeper, right down to the genetic and molecular level.
And this is what they found. Back in 2000, there was this absolutely groundbreaking discovery that revealed breast cancer isn't one single disease. Not at all. It's more like a collection of distinct diseases, a whole family of cancers, really. And what makes them different isn't how they look, but the unique biological engine that's driving their growth.
This new way of classifying things is all based on what we call molecular subtypes. Think of it this way. Instead of just saying, hey, that's a car, we can now say, oh, that's an electric car, or that's a diesel truck, or that's a hybrid. And you know what? Each one needs a totally different kind of fuel and a different kind of maintenance.
So how do scientists actually figure out which subtype is which? Well, it all comes down to looking for 3 key biological markers on the cancer cells themselves. First, you've got receptors for hormones like estrogen and progesterone. We call those ER and PR. And then there's a protein called HER2. And here's the key. Whether these 3 markers are there or not, their presence or absence, creates a kind of unique biological signature. That's what lets doctors classify a tumor as, say, hormone receptor positive, HER2 positive, or if it's missing all 3, triple negative.
Okay, so once you realize you're not dealing with one disease but a whole collection of them, the next logical question is, what causes them? And the answer, it turns out, is this really complex dance between our genes and our lifestyle.
The risk factors are really a mix of what's passed down to us and the choices we make. On one side of the coin, you have our genetic legacy. About 10% of cases are inherited, linked to mutations in genes you might have heard of, like BRCA1 and BRCA2. On the other side, you've got factors we have more control over, things like our diet, physical activity, alcohol use, and even reproductive history. All of it plays a role. And check this out, this is a really powerful number. Globally, an estimated 20%, 1/5 of all breast cancers can be traced back to these modifiable risk factors. What does that mean? It means that while you can't change your genes, there is a very real, very tangible opportunity for prevention here.
And all of this leads to the most important part of the story, really. Because if you can classify the disease by its unique biology, well then you can attack it with incredible precision. This really shows you the new reality of treatment in action. So, if a cancer is being fueled by hormones, guess what? We use therapies that block those hormones. If it's making way too much of that HER2 protein, we have drugs designed to go right after that specific protein. And for those cancers linked to BRCA mutations, there's a super clever class of drugs called PARP inhibitors. They basically exploit a weakness the cancer already has in its DNA repair system to take it down from the inside. It's brilliant. And that is the absolute essence of modern cancer care. We've gone from using a sledgehammer, this blunt, one-size-fits-all approach, to using a scalpel, a sophisticated, biology-directed strategy. It's no longer just about treating breast cancer, it's about treating your specific kind of breast cancer.
and that has made all the difference in the world.
But all of this incredible scientific progress, it shines a light on a really stark new challenge: making sure that everyone, everywhere, can actually benefit from it.
When you look at the data, you see this tragic paradox. High-income countries, they actually have higher rates of diagnosis, which makes sense, partly because of better screening. But many low- and middle-income countries, even though they have fewer cases overall, suffer from much, much higher mortality rates. And the reason is heartbreakingly simple. Diagnosis often comes too late, and access to these modern targeted treatments just isn't there.
There's a quote from the original research that just hits the nail on the head. "The science has handed us the tools. The next great hurdle isn't going to be found in a laboratory. It's out in the real world. It's about logistics, economics, and global health policy." And so that leaves us with a huge, critical question. We've unlocked the biological secrets. We've designed smarter, more effective drugs to fight back. The challenge now isn't just scientific. It's a human one. How do we build a world where a person's chance of survival isn't dictated by their zip code?